once a dream, time like a stream carries our burdens away. Never despair, joys everywhere, love can befriend you today. Free from all care, like birds on the air, soar above griefs and worries, seek joy and be gay. Often on earth, things of great worth, worldly ambitions defy. Sometimes a friend helps us ascend up from life's steps to the sky. Love is a star shining afar. It can guide us and help us toward light to draw nigh. Love is a star shining afar. It can guide us and help us toward light to draw nigh.
Good morning, everyone. It's amazing how different yogis materialized and teleported into these chairs during the meditation. It's very nice to have you all here. This reading is a commentary on the Bhagavad Gita based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda and written by Swami Kriyananda. The quote from the Gita is, "He is a supreme yogi who gazes equally upon patrons, friends, enemies, strangers, peacemakers, those who would cause trouble, relatives, the virtuous, and the ungodly. One who is blessed with abundant wealth sees little difference between $1 and $100. The saint, similarly, who lives in inner bliss, views human differences with equanimity. People may love him or hate him. To him it is all the same. This doesn't mean that he is indifferent to their feelings. It is only that God's love absorbs him. He is focused on the infinite love that he feels flowing through him to others, rather than on their merely human feelings for him. Grace is his gift to others. It is not something he begs from them in return. The more a saint's consciousness soars in the infinite, the less engrossing for him is the complex tapestry of human affairs. This doesn't mean that God consciousness obscures his human perceptions. Indeed, higher awareness will have given him the keenest insight into all the nuances of human nature. Having overcome his personal likes and dislikes, his perceptions remain undistorted by the wish that anything were other than it is. This is an important teaching. It can be applied to some extent, moreover, even by novices. For all devotees should try to live consciously by inner soul guidance and not be swayed by circumstances, nor what by others think of them. They should try to carry with them in outward life the peace they receive in meditation, and not allow themselves to be caught up in worldly energies. They should pray for openness of heart, and that they may channel God's grace to others. They should not devote too much attention to others' reactions to them. They should not be attached to anything, nor to anyone, but should ever reflect that all phenomena, including their own bodies and personalities, are only waves on the infinite divine ocean. Many yoga practitioners concentrate only on the negative aspects of non-attachment. They hold themselves aloof from others and from the concerns of others. When non-attachment is limited to this rejecting frame of mind, it may easily develop into spiritual pride. What the devotee must learn is to balance his non-attachment with compassion, lest he end up practicing non-attachment toward others instead of toward himself. The Bhagavad Gita is emphasizing the secret of true non-attachment as an expansion of self-identity rather than a contraction, as so many consider it. It stresses that one should never depend on others, nor accept from them vibrations that are not of God. At the same time, it says one should share with everyone whatever blessings God bestows upon him. Expanding the harmony one feels in meditation is actually a way of protecting oneself against harmful influences. Paramahansa Yogananda taught this effective technique. Meditate first and harmonize the vibrations in your heart. Then radiate these calm vibrations outward, not so much to specific persons as generally in all directions to the world around you. The benefit of this simple technique is that a giving frame of mind, especially when the giving is harmonious, untainted by any vestige of self-interest, receives back from the world only those vibrations which are on the same vibrational wavelength. Negative influences will not enter one's consciousness if there is nothing in oneself that resonates to them. This week's passage describes primarily the characteristics of the saint, one who is divinely enlightened. It also suggests to all devotees, however, that they work at developing saintly qualities, particularly non-attachment and selfless love. By this twofold attitude, especially, one can remain forever unaffected by the pull of delusion. The graces that one receives in meditation should teach one non-attachment to the world, as well as kindness and selfless love to all. What we receive from God, we should share lovingly with everyone. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. And let's chant Om together. Om. Om.
Hello everyone, so nice to see you. Wouldn't it be wonderful if all we had to do, nice to see you. Wouldn't it be wonderful if all we had to do was just feel the grace of God bathe us, and all our worries, all our fears, all our feelings of difficulty inside our life were to just melt away, and we could just feel that divine love always in our hearts. Well, it can. That's the beauty of this path. It can. And all we have to do is open ourselves to allow that. Sometimes it can be a little disheartening to read about saints or to read this passage in the Gita, especially in the interpretation where it lists all the qualities of the saint. And we say, oh my God, how am I ever going to get there? You know, how am I ever going to get to that point? And it's sometimes more helpful in order to get to that mountaintop, if we really get to know who we are and practice self-acceptance so that we have a baseline from where to start. If our footing is on quicksand, meaning not the truth of where we truly are, our feet will only slip in the quicksand and we won't have a firm bedrock to stand on to move to that next step. You see, our footing has to be strong where it is. If you've ever rock climbed before, you know your footing has to be on the right part of the rock in order to push up to the next part of the rock. That footing that we're looking for is the reality of who we are and where we are on the spiritual path. It's very common for all of us to wish we had freedom now, and to also focus on when will I be free? When will it happen, Master? When? Is it now? Am I possibly a little more advanced now? You know? But it's the ego that really wants to define all of that. The ego wants to say, okay, I am a very good organizer, and I think that if I decide that I'm doing my sadhana this long for every day, and that I'm doing my energization, and that I'm, yes, I give 10 rupees a day to the beggar on the street, and, I'm very organized. Okay, if I work it out, I do this many kriyas for this long, then liberation. I've planned it out. I know it will happen. But it's the ego that makes these plans, What if you were the ego? Think about being the ego. Okay, my goal now is to get rid of me. No way. The ego is not going to do that. The ego can't be in charge of getting rid of itself. It will sneak around and say, I will pretend that I'm getting rid of myself, but actually, my goal is to keep myself. So how can I do that? And one of the ways is to worry about our liberation. When will I be free? When will I be more advanced? The focus is on I. You see? It's much more productive to think, Master, help me love you more. Help me love God more. Help me love the God in others and actually see the God in others. Not like theoretically, but actually see the God that flows through others. Help me to have love and compassion more. This reading about the having non-attachment but also compassion. See, that non-attachment is so important, and as he wrote, be careful about practicing non-attachment for yourself and not just on others. But see, when we're new, we read Raja Yoga, and we read the sutras, and we read the Gita, and it very clearly talks about renouncing the world, renouncing worldly desires, renounce. And at first that can work. We get a picture of the yogi. Here's this perfect little box, and here's the yogi, and we try and climb into that box. And we say, okay, a yogi feels this, and a yogi thinks that, and a yogi is this way, and a yogi is that way, and I am therefore not this way, and I'm not that way, and I don't feel that, and I don't think that. And so we're trying to fit in that box. It works for a while. In fact, I don't think it's a bad thing for it to work for a while. But we can't repress our true nature. Because we are complex souls with different vrittis inside of us, we can't fit in that yogi box, even though we desire so badly to. Wouldn't it make everything more simple if we could just fit in a box and, okay, now I just follow step 1, step 2, step 3, freedom. But instead, we have to be observant in ourselves. We have to really see, who am I? Find that footing. Find that bedrock. You know who we are? We are children of God. And we're a accumulation of our past karma that we're trying to get over. I wouldn't say we are that, but this is what we have to deal with. This is where we are. And we may as well have fun while we have it. We may as well have fun while we have life here on this planet. How do we have fun and deal with our karma? It's a difficult dilemma. So often we get caught up in our suffering, and we hear it all the time. We are always talking to people about what's going on in their lives, and very often it's, the real estate here, and my children here, and my job here. All of these things are causing me suffering. But the true yogi, and this is one little piece of the box that can fit for everyone, the yogi says, what is going on in me that I am feeling suffering from this outer circumstance? That is a tried and fast rule that works for everybody. That's one of the yogi in the box things. That's something we can all do. You don't have to be one nature or another to begin to learn how to introspect. And so we begin to say, what is it in me making me react to the world in this way? It's not the world. It is not the real estate. It is not our spouse. It is not your fellow Sanghaites. It's not traffic or the weather or whether we got the promotion or not. It's none of those things. We come with our karma of a certain emotional nature within. And it's those vrittis that are in our astral spine. And those vrittis determine how we're going to react or how we're going to feel in certain circumstances. So if we have a tendency to get angry about things, just remember to say, oh, I was just angry. Not about this person or that person. That anger is already there inside. What do I need to do to dissipate that anger inside of me? Most likely, that anger has been building up through lifetimes of action. It's not just, surprise, I'm born in this life and this thing made me angry. That anger tendency, Swamiji's life is so inspiring. He came into this life, you can tell by the stories he tells, without the anger tendency in him. He was told by, I don't know if it was Agastya or Brigu, but he was told that he had achieved shanti in his chakras in previous lives. So to me that means he had some level of samadhi or something. I don't know exactly what that means, but he attained shanti in his chakras. Well, you can tell. When someone would confront him, he wouldn't suddenly, get uptight about it. He'd go, I wonder if that's the truth. You sure look upset and angry with me. I'm sorry you're feeling so angry in yourself about me. Now, is there something I can do differently? Maybe. But it's not about these reactions. It's all about that calmness in the heart and being able to begin to introspect. Not only that, but to bring love and compassion into ourselves in circumstances. I was thinking about the chant, I own nothing, I am free. In myself, I am free. I own no one, I am free. In myself, I am free. I need nothing, I am free. In myself, I am free. I need no one, I am free. In myself, I am free. I can definitely say that over the years, I have chanted that with different levels of consciousness. The devotee at first that's really trying to climb that ladder says, I own nothing, I am free. In myself, I am free. I own no one, I am free. In myself, I am free. I need nothing, I am free. In myself, I am free. I need no one, I am free. And just all that willpower we have, because first of all, we spent X amount of years not realizing we wanted God. And so then suddenly, the fire is lit and how to do it is there. And so we've got all that willpower. I need nothing, I am free. In myself, I am free. And so we march and we begin to do our energization exercises. And we do the Hansa and we do the Kriya and we do all of these things and we're very good at it. And then suddenly we're thinking, and a yogi never reacts. A yogi never reacts. Then you're in with the auto rickshaw. Why are you charging me 50 rupees extra? So when we squeeze ourselves into that yogi box, sometimes we have to chop an arm off to fit, or a leg, or something to fit in the box. Sooner or later, the arm's going to have to get reattached, the leg's going to have to get reattached. We're going to have to deal with it. We can't just say, now that I'm a yogi, I do not react anymore, and I don't care about anything. And then people do things, and we're like, I don't care. I know it. And I got a letter from someone who said, and I make my face look very good, and I can easily look as though I'm not reacting at all. But that letter I got was a very wonderful letter, because so often people are saying, pray for me because this person's bothering me, I'm worried about that person, my job, the health. Very few letters are about, please help me see how I can change. You see? That is the true way to move forward as a yogi. When we're done blaming the outside world, that's when the true path begins. When we start saying, oh, I need to change. Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay. And then that spiritual pride can also happen in a bit of a detriment. I just want to give a little warning here. Someone mentioned that people were talking about the lengths of their meditation practice to each other out loud in front of others. And as Swamiji would say, please don't. And I ask because of the bounce back theory that happens with spiritual pride. And that is when we are telling others about spiritual experiences, length of meditation, that type of thing, we're saying that out loud and putting into motion a karma that's going to come back. When we do that, it's coming from pride. Unless it's a support group. Unless it's I only did an hour and I really want to get to an hour and a half. What do you do to do an hour and a half? But if it's, well, guess what? I meditated this long, that long. It creates a duality, a dualistic. Because unfortunately, pride is on the dual scale. And as soon as pride is there and the dual scale is, guess what? Boom, crash. And so I ask, just in the sense of, if you can avoid things, at least saying them out loud that build your spiritual pride, it's much better. And you may feel it inside, but you're not putting it as much in motion. Because what happens, we brag about meditating 3 or 4 or 5 hours on a weekend, and then suddenly, boom, all these blocks come to our meditation. We can barely do 10 minutes, you see? So when spiritual pride comes in, it bounces back. And if we are trying to gain admiration from others because of a spiritual practice, that again sends things. I can really understand the desire to talk about it, the desire to have admiration from others. We all want love. We all want love. It's a basic thing. But when we can experience divine love, it bypasses all that need for love from others. Not that it's not pleasant. It's much more pleasant to have people love us rather than hate us. So just for the sake of harmony, that kind of a thing. But in reality, like Swamiji was saying, once we get to a level of being able to have a higher consciousness about human interaction, then people may love, people may hate, but we can feel Divine Mother's love in our heart at all times. And we're not setting into duality. It's almost better to get rid of those worldly desires in the world than to bring them into the spiritual arena. Because the spiritual arena is high stakes. To try and have people love you. There's all these gurus out there who, yes, they bring people to meditation, and yet they're also trying to get people to like them and to love them, you see? And as soon as it's about love me and not God, then that spiritual mentor, helper, guru, whatever you want to call them, they're headed for a fall. It's a very sad situation. And so when we are doing the spiritual path in order to gain admiration from others, this is not putting things into the right flow in our lives. It's better. I was talking a little bit about this in level 1 yesterday, and someone said it perfectly. Because our relationship with God is intimate, it's really between us and God. And, Swamiji said to Master, will I be free in this life? Don't we wish we could ask Master that now? Or Swami or someone? But Master said such a beautiful thing. He said, yes, but don't think about it. Again, when we think, will I be free? Am I free? How free am I? Am I close? Please. What does that even mean? If we are caught up in the present moment and in the love that is actually flowing in the present moment, time and space disappears. It doesn't matter. The yogis, Master, all our gurus say we are free now. All we have to do is open up and realize it. Master said that freedom on the path is 25% our effort, 25% the effort of the guru, and 50% grace from God. How can we control that? Not only that, the 25% of our effort, it's 100% of our effort. It's just 25% in that mathematical equation there. But if you notice, our part of the mathematical equation is only 25%. Wait a minute, I want the other 75%. So all we can do is our part as best as we can, 100%. And that means in everything we do. If we get caught up in the life-negating yogi-in-a-box energy, and we are repressing parts of ourselves, then, like I said, it comes out in weird ways, like at the auto rickshaw driver or a child or someone who is a little less threatening than we are. But also, what was I about to say? Yes, there was something, part of that sentence I was going to say. It'll come back to me.
If we repress,
yeah,
it'll come out in a weird way.
right. If we repress, then that's it. If we repress, we begin to block the flow of energy. You see? So like I said, we can repress in the beginning. And sometimes it's good because we get our willpower up. Now I can meditate the hour and a half for Kriya. Now I can get initiation. I'm there. I'm doing my requirements. I've got my energy up. Sometimes I don't want to say repression, but renouncing can kind of get your energy up to do something, with willpower. But then, once we begin to integrate ourselves on the spiritual path, and it's not so much about outer rules. Hey, wait, I followed all the outer rules. Why aren't I free yet? Many people think, hey, I got Kriya now. Let's see, I think in 1 or 2 years, Master said someone said if you meditate for 6 hours a day, you will attain freedom in 5 years or something. What was it?
Something like that.
Someone said that. I don't remember which guru. I remember when I went through something called Ananda training. And this, we were all brand new. And we had to give a 5-minute talk to our fellow people. And there was this one guy who said, okay, I meditate an hour and a half now. I'm going to add 30 minutes a month. And so by this time, I'll be at 6 hours a day. And then it says if I meditate for 5 years, or whatever the years are, 6 hours a day, then I will be liberated. And so I remember all of us just kind of went, good for you, you know? And we all have these thoughts. We all focus on it. But remember, it's only the ego that suffers in general. It's only the ego that is suffering right now about not being free yet. We need to let it go. Because again, it's unfortunately I. When am I free? Like Master said, don't think about it. Don't think about it. Really, don't think about it. There is no spiritual hierarchy. We can never know who is more advanced than anybody. We can never know that. Someone can walk in the door tomorrow who's already liberated. And God has veiled it from them. They don't know it. So they come and they take Hong Sa and they do all this stuff, and then in a month they can be liberated. Or someone might be newer on the spiritual evolution and try really hard with 1,000% of their willpower just inwardly and gain liberation in that lifetime. We don't know how long it takes. It really is that nail in the wood. You see the nail in the wood, you don't get to see the other side of the nail. How long will it take to pull that nail out? How long? Is it a short nail or is it a long nail? We don't know. So don't think about it. And Ananda welcomes all levels of meditators. Some people have Kriya initiation after their 1 year going through classes. Other people, it takes longer. I know one woman, she is really a saint. It took her 7 years to get Kriya. She's a saint now. She's probably been practicing for 50 years, but it did take her 7 years to get it, and she's just so saintly and wonderful and beautiful. It didn't matter how fast she took to take Kriya. Being a newer center and everybody goes through batches together, you don't have people who are older who can kind of give that wisdom of, oh yeah, it took me 3 years, oh yeah, it took me 5 years, oh yeah, it took me 7 years. You don't have that. You only have your fellow mates. How long are you meditating? I'm meditating 1 hour, 0.759. I'm almost at, you know. Good for you. Me too. So, this is where the conversation goes from just that non-attachment, just that renouncing, to the compassion part. And that's why at first when I heard people were comparing their meditations, especially in front of new people, I was disappointed. And then I thought, you know what? I remember when I was new on the path, I took a lot of business trips when I was an engineer. I would meditate on the plane, hoping the person next to me would ask me what I'm doing. I'm meditating. Or I would read Autobiography of Yogi. Really great book. I'm on this great book about samadhi. You know, it's natural. Everybody does it. The ego is there. I can only tell that story because I don't care anymore, you know? For a long time I probably wouldn't tell that story because I would be afraid that people would say, what a big ego. But it's like, fine, if you want to think there's a big ego there, it's your problem, it's my problem, really. If I've got a big ego, it's really my problem. So, it's natural. So just accept that. It's okay. The compassion part is another part of that. The compassion part is we're interacting with our coworkers, we're interacting with anybody, they say something and we feel something negative about it, whether it's a judgment, whether it's fear, defensiveness, anger, and then we say, wow, what's going on with me? The only way we can dissipate these emotions inside is a higher understanding of where they come from, and God's grace to help them dissipate over time. So the higher understanding, Swami says over and over and over in his books, try and understand that person's point of view from their point of view. Try and understand it. It's especially hard when you're mad at someone. And they've done something really bad to you also. But if you can try and say, look, they're reacting from fear. They're afraid of something. And I'm only reacting because I wish it were other than the way it is. I want to reread what Swami wrote. This is from Essence of the Bhagavad Gita. And of course, what Dharmarajan read earlier is part of Swamiji's interpretation, but this is specifically from that book. So here, chapter 6, stanzas 8 and 9 of the Gita. That yogi who is blissfully absorbed in wisdom of the self is known as being unshakably united to spirit, unchangeable, the controller of his senses. He views with equal mind a clod of earth, a stone, and a bar of gold. He is a supreme yogi who gazes equally upon patrons, friends, enemies, strangers, peacemakers, those who cause trouble, relatives, notice relatives is in there, the virtuous and the ungodly. These two stanzas do not mean that the yogi isn't capable of recognizing the difference between one material object or another, or between a good human and an evil one. As my guru put it, he is not dumb. The difference between the wise yogi and the ordinarily ignorant human being is that the yogi accepts with equanimity whatever is. To him, all things and all creatures are simply plays of divine light and shadow on the screen of duality. He reacts appropriately to all, both virtuous and ungodly, but in his heart he sees both as aspects of the eternal drama of God. And so, if we're caught up in a prideful, egoic way, or a worried state of mind, or in this negative version of the non-attachment, how do we get out of that? How do we get out of trying to fit in the yogi box? It's like, uh-oh, I must have cut my arm off to get here. How do I get out of here? How do I get my arm back and start becoming more authentic in my life? How do I no longer just try and gain adoration versus really start to feed myself with God's energy and love? How do I start doing that? We must develop devotion. That's the only way. That's what Swami is saying, is balancing out the negative aspect of non-attachment with devotion. That will pull the non-attachment negative aspect to the positive aspect. Then we are just detaching from ourself instead. Then we're just renouncing what's going on inside of us. Not in a negative way, but in this positive way with compassion. It's like, wow, I was really prideful when I just did that. Anybody wants love. What kind of love was I searching for? Why did I do that? And okay, Master, help me do it in a different way next time. But that devotion, that love that we can add to the self-judgment, very often when we are critical of others or judging of others, we're 10 times worse on ourselves, And so that way that we are on ourselves, that needs to soften. Once that softens, other people will be less of a interest to us in terms of trying to criticize them or judge them or compare ourselves to others all the time. If we can feed ourselves, that compassion has to be there. And that compassion can really come with a divine experience of love. That love can only come through devotion. So the chanting, the singing, people go to a temple and are offering flowers. There's just so many ways we can offer that love. Healing prayers. That way we're focused on sending energy to others. Practicing understanding and compassion in our interaction with others. Having a reaction and saying, okay, rather than saying anything out loud to this person like you're a complete idiot, I am going to now go meditate and find out what in me made me have that judgment. And I'm also going to understand where you're coming from. We can do it. Most of all, though, pray for love with all your heart. I want us to do this little exercise that Swami talks about in here, if I can find it. Do you remember where it is?
It's near the bottom, like the second or third to last paragraph. Paragraph being that white space.
Okay, here it is. Paramahansa Yogananda taught this effective technique. So let's all just close our eyes, sitting up straight. Become aware of the heart and just breathe into it, trying to harmonize the vibrations in the heart. If the heart is jumpy or nervous, just try and calm it down through the breath. Then Master says, radiate these calm vibrations outward, not so much to specific persons as generally in all directions to the world around you. So try and radiate that love and devotion. And Master says that by staying in that level of radiation, we invite back only those harmonized energies that go with whatever vibration we are radiating out. So if we're radiating out peace and harmony, then we're gathering up the good karma to have that come back to us. We have to practice it with Nishkam karma. But over time, as karma gets worked through, the harmonizing energy prevails and dominates. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.